Nice, awesome. Yeah, I was talking to him earlier. Yeah, people can see us. Or they can hear us. They just can't see us right now.
Yeah, okay.
As we get this going live. I'm gonna try to get the chat here in get the chat here in the stream without the echo, hopefully. All right.
I switched off the sound.
You what? Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's a little irritating because we talk and actually, if you got the Twitch stream, there's a delay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So you get people like talking, and you think, I don't hear anything. It was from 10 seconds before.
all right. All right, we're live. People can see us now. They don't only hear us. So what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, doing great. How are you doing?
Nice.
How was
Doing
your day?
good. Yeah, going good, man. I'm glad you could join me. I know with the time zone difference and all that stuff, sometimes it's hard to schedule and whatever, but I'm glad you could make it. Anybody watching, yes, this is the deep dive series. This episode is all about the fixer role. And before I get into that and kind of explain what we're doing with it and how it works and all that stuff, why don't you take a moment, Rothin, just to kind of, and first off, I've known you for a while now. You play in my monthly ongoing for Cyberpunk Uncensored. We joke about how like I call you by your character name, but then your real name is Rothin. But then I've always wondered, like, am I saying it wrong? Is it Rothin or Rothin?
Um, Actually, over here, most people say Rotin,
Rothin. Okay. See, I was way off.
but as it's actually an Indian name, my cousin always told me, well, it should be Rothin. And well, I just say it like I learned it in Germany, like everybody in Germany says it. So, but
Okay.
I'm getting along very well if someone says it the English way or the American way.
Okay, see,
I
so
spend
you don't get
spend a lot of time.
offended. You don't get offended if
No,
somebody
not at
says it
all.
wrong. Okay, cool. Because I'll probably say it wrong. I'm going to try to remember now, now that I've finally got the official answer. And anybody watching, make sure you absorb that. Let's try to say his name right from here on in. Let's be nice like that, huh? But yeah, before we get into it, why don't you explain? Oh, and hey, what's up? I see Zach, Capricious Nature. I see my beautiful wife, Val Mulligan, in the chat. That's great. Hey, and anybody tuning in, if you have any questions, comments about the fixer as we go along, make sure you put it in there. And I'm going to explain how it's going to work in a moment. But like I said, take a moment and tell people about yourself, and then maybe tell people about, maybe your background in role playing, all that stuff about yourself, but then get into a little bit, how you're doing my monthly ongoing. I know you're also playing with Steve on his game that's not streamed, but he plays in our stream, all that stuff. You just give people a little bit of background about you.
Yeah, my name is Rotin, also Renegade or 420. That was actually what you were talking about with this, and that was actually because I fucked up that time because I forgot to put in the character name. Well, I hadn't even thought about a character name. I had just put in my nick and my normal name. I said, "Well, who cares?" um, yeah, as you heard, I live in Germany, so right now we still got 8 hours. Tomorrow we'll have 9 hours difference again.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your time change kicks in tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, tonight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I've been playing for quite a while. I started when I was like 12, so I play more than 30 years now. We started with Dungeons and Dragons, like most people. I actually slipped into Cyberpunk 2020 when I was playing Shadowrun, and it got too much fantasy for me. And someone told me, "Well, just play Cyberpunk." And since then, it was love. So didn't
Oh yeah.
have any players for a long, long time till I met a few guys at conventions and we started playing online again. And then, like 2019, when the Jumpstart kit came out, as soon as I could get it in Germany, I got it, and I started looking into it. And yeah, then sometime COVID struck. I got bored, started looking in the internet, and that's how I found people like Simon from Wandering DM or you.
Yep.
And yeah, since then I'm in here. And when you looked for people to play, I said, "Hey, I'd like to try," and that's where it came to now. Also, I'd like to shout out to Steve, or make shout out for Steve,
Hi.
who's Bodak, one of the future two kings of Night City. Night City doesn't know it yet. It's Bodak and Gato. But let's leave it by that now.
Yeah. Yeah, and anybody tuning in, if you're not familiar with Gato or Bodak or like what we're kind of talking about, I'm GMing a monthly stream. We're doing Cyberpunk Red, and Rothin plays Gato, which is the fixer. Steve from Sirenscape plays Bodak, the netrunner. And that's ongoing. And that's also with my buddy Jack, who's a fellow GM, streams with Cyberpunk Uncensored sometimes, and also Terabella Pondsmith, which is Cody Pondsmith's wife. Which is really cool. So we got a Pondsmith in there, and she plays just as brutal as you would expect a Pondsmith to play. She plays a badass solo.
She's awesome.
Yeah,
she's absolutely.
And I'll add,
Also, Jack.
yeah, we will be getting back into that stream. We're just waiting on the current dates. Scheduling wasn't working over the past couple weeks, but we are getting back into that. We have a certain campaign we're going to wrap and then turn that into an official monthly ongoing. That way we can have cliffhangers and have things carry over and not worry so much about each one being a standalone session. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, and another thing about Steve, Sirenscape, they're an official sponsor here at Cyberpunk Uncensored. So I'm going to play the Night Market sound set in the background while we get into the whole Fixer deep dive.
Good year.
And I do want to add just a little pre, I guess, release news here, because now I can kind of talk about it a little. I'm not going to go into full details, but I am going to say in a couple weeks, I am going to be GMing and starting up the weekly gameplay for Sirenscape officially. So that's going to be coming up here soon, and I'll be releasing some details and info about that, as well as a new monthly ongoing, aside from the monthly ongoing I just mentioned. So I'm going to have 2 different monthly ongoings for Cyberpunk Uncensored, and then a weekly ongoing for Sirenscape. So lots of gameplay coming up. It's going to be badass. But yeah, let me explain Deep Dive real quick before we get into it. Deep Dive is all about the style. It's not about the crunch. If you want to learn, about the roll ability and how the fixer works, as an operator and all that sort of stuff, I have a complete tutorial crash course series on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube, and I have a roll breakdown within that tutorial where I break down every roll's roll ability, and that covers the crunch and how that works, as well as other crash course videos. If you want to learn about the mechanics, check all that out. Deep Dive is not about mechanics. Let me say that again. It's going to be about the life path options, creative thinking behind that, different archetypes and ways you can play a fixer, and then recommended stats and skills. And then we're going to hit up the chat and answer any questions that you guys might have that we didn't get to during the stream. But don't get me wrong. If anybody has any questions or comments to make as we go, drop it there in the chat. As you can see, we have it right here in the stream, and we're responsive. We'd love to have everyone's thoughts and ideas on this. It just makes for a much better stream, and it's great for the Cyberpunk Red community that we all contribute awesome ideas for everyone to use. And yeah, what's up, Sleepy? I see you there in the chat. And Eric, what's up? That's awesome. Everybody's joining us. Everybody's here on time. Vampire, what's up, man? You say the Rocker Boy was the best yet because they each get better as you go. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Hell yeah, they just keep getting better and better. All right, awesome. So yeah, let's get into it. Let me get the Sirenscape sound set going. Just for a little bit of background, I'm just gonna play the Night Market sound set. I'm not gonna have it too loud, just a little bit. And anybody in chat, if it does get too loud at moments, I know sometimes I get some of the sound effects going, and sometimes it can drown out the shit we're saying. If it does, just let me know, and I'll kick it down a notch. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's see. Anybody that wants to follow along, we're going to start with the life path. Now, Cyberpunk Red has an awesome life path system. We already all know that. But the cool thing that I love about it is that each roll has its own life path system. So you do this general life path roll as you're making a character. You get into these specific roles where the life path, I don't know, it goes into details of different things about that are, specific to that role. So anybody that wants to follow along, we're going to start on, I think it's page 66. Yeah, page 66, the Fixer life path. So let's start there. If you want to take the mic and kind of lead the way, let's just go down the whole life path thing with everybody.
Okay. Well, actually, the Fixer is very, very versatile, and you can see that in that life path too. Especially in the beginning, what kind of Fixer are you? So, what exactly are you doing? The number one is broker deals between rival gangs. So you're actually working to broker deals. Well, perhaps even between gangs that are rivals that are fighting each other, and this is just one of the many parts that you can do. It's like, okay, you've got problems. I'll help you settle the problems, and you get a deal out of it. The second is to procure rare or atypical resources for exclusive clientele. Well, as you know, in the time of the Red, it's not as easy to get rare materials, rare stuff. And if you've got like some kind of exec who just want or a high level rocker boy or someone who just wants to have some special thing, or even a scientist who needs some things for his works, for his research and so on. That's exactly what you're doing then. Specialize in brokering solo or tech services as an agent. So this is not about trading like the other ones, but it's actually more like managing the solo or the tech. So getting gigs for techs or solos, but also if someone searches for a solo, you get in and start searching who is available and send them over.
Yeah, and think of how important that is in Cyberpunk Red. Just the first couple things that you've mentioned. I mean, Red, it's hard to get things because it's post Fourth Corporate War, post nuke fallout from the Fourth Corporate War. Everything's finally getting back, but supply chains are broken. You have to rely on nomads. There's not a bunch of warehouses out there making new things. Fixers are so important when it comes to that because they're your key to sourcing things. Anything, weapons, items, foods. The Fixer is your hookup to the source chains, and then for getting gigs. So those two things right there, they're the most important things in Cyberpunk Red. You gotta get weapons and things and ammo and cyberware, and you need to source things, and then you have to do gigs to get paid. Both of those things you need a Fixer for. So it's just right away you can see how powerful a Fixer and how important they are. And what's up, Wildu or Wildu? I don't know if I'm saying that wrong, but I see you in chat. I've seen you in the server, and I hate when I say people's users names wrong. Type in Wild if it's Wildu. Just to let me know if I'm saying that right. And what's up, Steve from Sirenscape? Made it. That's awesome. All right, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Also, what you said, to produce something, you need the resources, and that's just what you've got in number 2 too. Supply a regular resource for night markets like food, medicines, or drugs, as you just said. Basically, everything has to be transported. Everything has to be found. Everything has to be made available, and that's what you do there. And if it's only to get the traders, move over there. Procure highly illegal resources like street drugs or mil-spec weapons. Again, the same thing as we had before. It's difficult to get the special equipment and so on, and that's the job of a fixer. He looks, where can I get it? Who might know something about this? Who might have that stuff? Or who might know where that stuff is available? And then you go and get a solo or tech or a whole team to just fetch it for you. supply resources for tech, medtechs, like parts and medical supplies. What we said, to produce something, you need resources. And without a fixer, you'd have a hard time to get those resources. A tech might, perhaps, by salvaging some of the broken down vehicles and tech that he can find, but if he wants to buy to build something more sophisticated, he needs a fixer to just get those things.
Yeah, and I love how that too. The the sourcing of these things, it already kind of leads into potential archetypes. And we're obviously gonna get into that after we get through LifePath. But right here, you can already tell that like I said, fixers are the ones that they're your key to sourcing things or getting gigs, right? So like as you go through, you can already see the importance, like a med tech, or solo gigs. And right there, you can already see the kind of day and night options of like, I guess, morality behind the fixer maybe. Like, are they into sourcing items that are saving people? Or are they into sourcing gigs for solos to go kill people, so to speak? You know what I mean? So already you can see how you can lean into different styles of fixer within that. But I really like how they included that. And just right off the bat, just sourcing stuff for med techs just gives me like a positive vibe to the fixer. Like they're trying to keep, people being able to be healed and healthy and stuff. I like that.
Okay, operate several successful night markets, although not as an owner. So that's actually like if you are an event manager and you're organizing an event for someone else. You organize the thing, operate that thing, but someone else has it on his page. So someone else wants to make that night market. I think a very good example could be you have a group of smaller fixers who make a night market and who want to have a midnight market, and they need that level 9 fixer to operate it so that you can get that midnight market in there.
And that shows too, with that one right there, just being able to operate several night markets, although not the owner, like it says. It shows you there, like, even as a fixer, even if you're not to the level that you can throw your own night market, you could still be the type of fixer that manages other night markets, for other bigger fixers or whatever. I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
Also, like the fixer can be just like an agent or manager for solos and so on, but he can still operate those night markets. So normally he doesn't do night markets, but someone wants to do night markets and needs someone to help him out with that, so he can do that for him. Okay, broker use contracts for heavy machinery, military vehicles, and aircraft. Yeah, so I think I don't know what game it was. I watched the game where they needed heavy machinery to move away rubble from buildings and so on. And they were lucky that they knew someone who was working for, I think, Sirafa, who could source those for them. But if you're not that lucky, who can source them for you? Yeah, it's the fixer. It's your local fixer. Yeah. Also, military vehicles and aircraft. Broker deals as a fence for scavengers, raiding corps or combat zones. Okay, I think that's one of the classic things, working as a fence. Yeah. Working as a fence, having people come there, and I think it was the last major of Balancetown where they were talking about economics.
Oh, yeah.
Asked, how does it work with selling and reselling? And he said, well, you basically sell those things at market price. And then the next question was, yes, but how can someone make a profit with that? And he said, well, give it to your fixer. The fixer sells it. If he's good enough, he can sell it with a discount. He can buy something with a discount of up to 20% and sell it again with a bonus of up to 20%. So in the end, you win 40%, and that can be quite a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And then we have got act as an exclusive agent for Media, Rockaboy, or Nomad Pack.
I like that one.
I miss David Noir.
That's yeah. Anybody that's seen our ongoing one shot, David Noir, he had a little situation he got into. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to spoil it. If anyone hasn't seen it, go see it.
What I actually mean is that Gato sometime stepped in and said, "Okay, I'll manage you now. First of all, garden site, and so on."
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really like that number 10 though. What kind of fixer are you? Because like typically in Cyberpunk, you keep it broad for the most part. You want to be flexible. You want full player agency as a player. You want to be able to. I want to sell stuff. I want to, go source this. I want to get a gig for this, and you kind of do that. But I almost like when it gets a bit specific. I'm doing a little bit of that with the Sirenscape ongoing that we're getting ready to launch and our monthly ongoings. I'm kind of making the team dynamic a bit locked into something to move forward, and it gives it a little bit of spice. And that number 10 gives me that vibe a lot. Where like, you could be a fixer that, you're still open. Fixers, you can do whatever you want. But at least maybe you're exclusive for a particular media, rocker boy, or nomad pack. In which case, you've got these people that you consistently work with, and and it's exclusive, and like, I don't know, there can be a lot of fun with that, I think, and that's really cool.
Also, this is a life path. So this is how you became a fixer.
Exactly.
So what did you work for before? And it's like if you started training for your job and you work for one company, and then after your training is finished, you just change somewhere else and they do something totally different. But what they need your education for. So I think that's one of the things you should not really forget about.
Oh yeah. And I see Steve said when we were talking about David with that in the managing part, and he says, "And man, did David need managing?" I got to agree with that. David Noir was out of control. Maybe if we had a fixer that was his particular agent or manager, could have reeled him in sometimes and kept unfortunate things from happening to him. Also, I just want to... Yeah, you tried to help, but, he was unmanageable.
May I quote?
I'm saying...
David, you've got one important job. Shut up.
No, I know exactly. But I feel like, you were also handling, like, getting discounts for people, sourcing stuff when they needed in between. I feel like we needed, like I said, a fixer specifically to manage him, because he was so crazy. But it was a lot of fun. But I do want to backtrack before we move on to the next section, because I saw a couple people commenting about Sirenscape. And yes, you can make custom sound sets. You can go within their sound sets and adjust volumes on individual sounds. That's why at the beginning when I said if it's too loud, let me know. And when you made that comment about how sometimes the sirens cut through a bit loud, I already went in and dropped the volume on just the sirens. You can see now they kind of come in, but they're not overpowering. Sirenscape is awesome. So don't even worry about stuff like that. Dive in and you'll see you got complete control. But yeah, let's move on to the next section. And yeah, anybody in chat, keep the comments coming. Even though we're going to move on to new sections, if something comes to mind on something that we already covered, put it in there. We have no problem backtracking conversation and making sure that we cover all bases. But let's move on to the next section.
So the next one is, got a partner or work alone? You choose that. Well, either you choose it yourself. When I did, we were talking about it. I told you, well, that would fit, and you said, well, yeah, that's totally it. So you decide whether you're working with a partner or whether you work alone. And then if you have a partner, the question is, who is that partner? That might be a family member, an old friend, a romantic partner as well, a mentor like Ava, a secret partner with mob or gang connections, and a secret partner with corporate connections. And the last two, they're really, yeah. Those would be obvious partners for someone who tries to get up real quickly.
Oh yeah, no, and I like.
Back.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of power behind that. If it's a mob, gang, or corporate connection, But what I like about those last two on the Who is the fact, and I've covered this in another deep dive because this has come up on, not just this role, but when it talks about a secret partner, whether it's mob gang or corporate or whatever, I always love to think about the different ways that you can play that. Is that a secret, like, to the public, but your team knows, but it's like under wraps, you're kind of working off the books? Or is it like you don't even tell your teammates, you just kind of work that out with the GM, and maybe there's these underlining plots that come and go throughout the campaign, and maybe the other players got to pick up on it. I really love stuff like that. As you've seen when I do my plots and campaigns, I love to like put multiple layers, interesting twists. An example, that one where you had to get the guy out of there and what it turned out to be, little things like that. But then underlining plots that can kind of come into play if people dig or go on a side arc if they want. If not, cool. But I love putting like little spicy things in there, just in case. And that's one of them right there that I think would be really cool. GMs, keep that in mind. Talk to your players about that. You got a secret partner. Maybe the team doesn't even know. I don't know.
Okay. Also, why is it a secret partner?
Exactly.
Is it because you don't want to get associated with him, or he doesn't want to get associated with you? Like, for example, a corporate who just gives out some resources of the corporation, and if someone finds out, well, he gets fired.
Yeah.
In the best case.
That's true too. It's not just like who is the secret for, but where did the secret come from? I love that angle too. Like, is it something that the character has to keep, or is it something that the corp or the gang or the mob told them to keep? Or yeah, I like that too. But you can see right there, there's so many angles that you can kind of play this life path stuff. And then Capricious Nature, my buddy Zach, who's heading up our Scream Sheet project. I wanted to shout that out again because we've already put out a few. We got some more coming. He says, another question for offices like... Oh, wait, let me back up to the first one. Question, if the Fixer has a corporate connection, would you allow them to be pulled in as a connection for night markets based on their corp? I don't know if I would do... I guess based on the corp. Yeah, I guess I could say based on the corp, because who's to say that in your world, like, if this Fixer works for like Militech or like some division of Arasaka sneaking back into Night City, or working for some other manufacturer of weapons or items, doesn't also work out a deal with like, a side Fixer off the books, like, here, we've got the, this overstock supply or these returns, go push them at a night market. We can't put it on shelves, but you go put it at the night market. So I don't know. I could see different ways to kind of play that out. So yeah, why not? And
also,
what was that?
Also, we want to field test this, or we want to field test that.
Yeah, that's another fun thing. And this is another question for offices like a warehouse or clinic. Should the Fixer have to pay for the location? I've got my Fixer using the garage at her apartment complex, but it's part of the living cost. Yeah, I think that's up to you, and it's up to the situation. I think right there, just off the top of my head, when I read that, I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, maybe it's a trade-off. Like, yeah, they work out of there, but they've got to hook up the building owner or the on-site manager or the people in the building if it's a collective sort of thing. But maybe there's a trade-off that makes sense, or add it to the expenses, make it an extra thing. But then if you do that, at least give opportunity for them to go and work and earn enough money to have that extra expense. You don't want to just drop that in with no means to maintain it.
Yeah, that's actually where we get now, office.
Oh, and then yeah, exactly. Sleepy Otaku says, getting late and the sun is going down for this guy. Have a good stream, boys. Good night. Oh yeah, well, thanks for coming in, Sleepy. We're gonna have the VOD on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube probably in just a few days. When that happens, I'll be sure to post it around everywhere I can, and you can catch the rest of this. But thanks for coming in, at least for the first part of it. I really appreciate that. But yeah, let's move on.
Office. The number one is you don't have one. You like to keep it mobile. Well, that's actually the office I always have, even if I've got another one too. Because it's like you've got your agent with you anyway, and your agent is your office.
Yeah.
A booth in a local bar. That's something that I think is quite convenient too, because okay, bar opens, you go there, you're a regular customer. you pay your drinks, perhaps eat something there, and while you're there, you get people there to talk to you and make your deals. All data pool messages and anonymous dead drops. Yeah.
It's just getting them off online, pretty much, you know?
Everything gets online, gets online or with dead drops. A spare room in a warehouse, shop, or clinic. This might be very convenient if you have like a partner who is with a corporate connection or mob gang connection, or if you've got another partner like any of the others above who might be working in a shop or in a clinic, and you can just say, okay, I've got a spare room there, and work from there. And otherwise, abandoned building works, but has its risks as well. If you're not in the combat zone, you've always got to think about getting kicked out by the security forces who are there. And in the combat zone, an abandoned building, well, it's an abandoned building. You need to put some security in there, otherwise everything you might have there will be gone sooner or later. More sooner than later. And then the lobby of a Cube Hotel. Well, Cube Hotel was in the beginning my choice for a standard of living because I didn't have money to afford anymore. So that would be a reason for me to do that there. To do that in a Cube Hotel because it's cheap. And when you live there anyway, so why not just make deals there?
Yeah, step out your front door and work, you know?
Or just stay in bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think you tapped into something that I want to reiterate here, which is, GMs, when you think of those sort of things, pick up on some of the danger there. Pick up on the options to throw some curveballs at your players, like you said, what was it? An otherwise abandoned building. You can think about some of these places. They don't have built-in security. They don't have, if it's an abandoned building, maybe it doesn't have a front door, with a working lock, so to speak. I don't know, but it lends to potential risk of maybe a returning past person that knew about this building when it was something else, or maybe it's someone tracking down the fixer to that building, and it's just, I don't know, you can kind of pick up on that, but I think you can also do that with some of the others. If you think about a spare room in a warehouse, shop, clinic, even in a Cube Hotel, you can think of, maybe the guy at the front desk crosses the fixer, sells them out or something. But I think the only one that sounds a little bit safe, and even then you could still get set up, is that whole keeping it mobile. But then again, that's for GMs to have fun with, obviously, if you want to throw some curveballs and some danger towards it. But I do see a lot of potential with those to go some interesting ways to throw some danger at the fixer, Yeah, and what's next here? We got
The next is who are your site clients. So we've got number one, local rocker boys or medias who use you to get them gigs or contact. That's actually being agent of a rocker boy, managing him or managing a media. And yeah, as a fixer, you are the one who knows people, who know people, who know people, who know people who know you. And that way you are the best resource if it comes to get contacts or get into contact with some person. Because that's what you do. Local gangers who also protect your work area or home. We had that before too, with come on. We had that before too with brokering between gangs, deals between gangs, and this is actually a very nice win-win situation. So you work for the gang. You source things for the gangs. You get them gigs and so on, and they protect the area you're living and you work from. Corporate execs, we use you for black project procurement work. Yeah. If you played an exec and you needed people to do a mission, do a gig, first one you call will be a fixer too, because a fixer is the one who can get you into contact with every other edge runner or every other kind of edge runner. And if you're high enough in the corporate ladder, and you do not want the corp to be if you do not want anyone to know that the corp is involved, who you call? You call a fixer. You get a team of freelancers to do that for you, and you've got maximum deniability. Local solos or other combat types who use you to get them jobs or contacts. Same thing as with Rocker Boys or with Medias. You are the one who knows people. You are the one who knows who needs people. And if a solo is there and he hasn't been working for a while, his life is miserable. He doesn't get so much from hustling, so he really depends on all those gigs. So he's like the guy who might even come to you to ask, hey, do you have something for me to do? Do you have work for me to do?
And that's kind of with every role in a sense, because if you know anybody that is obviously into Red, which I imagine everybody watching this is all about that. Your hustle, you don't make as much as a regular gig. You might make like 100 or a few hundred at most. You're in the hundreds with that little side hustle over the course of a week, and you roll for it. But you go get a gig, you might make 1,000 or 2,000 depending on how dangerous it is, and that's way different than making hundreds. And without a fixer or someone hooking you up with real gigs, if you only had to rely on side hustles, you could barely survive. I imagine it'd be hard just to be able to afford kibble and not sleep on the street a majority of the month. It would get pretty rough. So fixers, man, they're important to keep real gigs flowing.
Also, when you make a gig, you can pick a loot from the people you have. Well, depending on the gig, you can pick up loot perhaps, and you can sell it, so get even more. Local nomads and fixers who use you to set up transactions or deals. Yeah, local nomads. They do basically 90% of the transportation in the area. There might be a few transports who are organized by gangs, by the mob, or by corps, but in total, it's most. You can be nearly sure that if there's something involving transport, always nomads. And same thing for fixes. We saw that there were many different things fixes could do. So if someone really specializes, then he might need you to set up those transactions for him. He wants to resource something. He's got something. He's found something. They even retrieved it, but now they need transportation to a certain location, and you're the guy who gets the nomad to him, for example. Or they found something, but they do not know where should we to whom should we sell it. You got the contacts, you get the deal, you get part of the transaction, and then it's local politicos or execs who depend on you finding out information. Yeah, you've got the contacts. You ask your contacts to get the information. Execs can't move everywhere because Okay, they might dress up like a local street kid, but as most of the execs grew up in a corporate situation, in a corporate environment, they don't know how to move in like the combat zone or in some kind of slum. And the same thing about politicos. Even if they are able to move in that kind of environment, if they're politicos, they do not want to be involved with that stuff.
Exactly.
Or they do not want people to know that they're involved with that stuff. So they just call their fixer.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think this one kind of lends to the fact that fixers, beyond, you know, getting gigs, jobs for people, you know, other roles, sourcing items and all that, it also gives you the idea of information just as much as you might source items. And I think that's really important with Cyberpunk Red, because think of how execs and corps, neocorps, the espionage and things that go on. You know, picture a fixer teaming up with a media, and a media getting the evidence, you know, the proper evidence to try to convince people of things, but then on the side, maybe the fixer as a partner takes that info and sells it to the competition or something along those lines. You know, information is just, you know, as flexible. You know, the nuances within that are just amazing. And what's up, PWB? I see you made it to the chat. That's awesome. Yeah, you missed some of it, but we'll have it on VOD soon. And let me just backtrack, because I did see some questions here before we get to the next section. I saw Liquid, what's up, thanks for joining, says, the fixers reach as far as the people they know at their rank. Is it something predetermined, or is it done on the fly based on the situation with reason? If you check out the rollability breakdown for the fixer that I have in my Cyberpunk Red Crash Course tutorial playlist on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube, you'll see the whole breakdown of the fixer rollability and how that works. But yeah, it is predetermined based on your rank. You know, each rank you get access to different cultures and languages, things like that. You choose, you decide. The GM incorporates that in. There's not, it's more role playing. There's not a lot of crunch behind that aspect of the rollability. It's more role played in, and you know, the GM and the player kind of making that work in gameplay, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, it's predetermined. It's all within, you know, whatever the player decides based on rank. And like I said, check out my rollability breakdowns on the YouTube. That'll give you a real good idea of how that works. And then Zach, Capricious Nature, says, question, my fixer's partner is a corp, you know, is an exec from Raven Micro Cybernetics, and he's a corp exec. I like saying exec instead of corp. Let's see, my fixer used his assistant as a netrunner, and the assistant got nearly killed. This impacted the fixer and connection's relationship pretty badly. Is the connection something that can be broken or reformed? If they break the connection, should they re-roll? You know, first and foremost, anything can be broken and changed, and things evolve and happen in Cyberpunk, obviously. So whatever you start with isn't necessarily where you're going to end up, or what you're going to end up with. When it comes to the assistant to an exec, you know, there's a whole loyalty thing there. And again, check out the rollability breakdown for the exec. I have that crash course on the YouTube. But just to lightly explain how that works, you know, there's loyalty checks based on how the exec is treating their assistant. And for me as a GM, that would totally come into play based on how the other teammates are treating them. Or I should say, how the exec of the team allows the other teammates to treat their assistant. So like if the exec allows the fixer to put his assistant in danger, the assistant's going to be pissed off at the exec for doing that. It's going to lower loyalty. And of course, if he gets killed, there's costs with that. And you know, the corp might be upset with the exec at letting other teammates get involved with their assistant that was hired to work for them. There's all different ways the GM can play that. But yeah, check out the rollability breakdown there, you know, to get a better idea of that loyalty system, because that's how I would play that in, most definitely. And it looks like Vampire said the same thing about the whole how things change in Cyberpunk. 100%, yeah.
Also remember that this is LIFEPATH, so this is what happened until now, or in the early past. So if something changes there, like for example, I had a mentor. The mentor got killed. I'll not roll for another friend. Just because I had 3 friends, one of them got killed now, okay, I've got 2 left.
Right.
I mean, that's just what it is, and if you've got a partner there, in every business connection, there can be a breakup, and that doesn't mean you automatically get a new partner. I think that's something. If you want to have a new partner, that's something you should play out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not to say, like, like for instance with Gato, anybody following that, yeah, Ava, his mentor, got killed. I don't want to get into the details of that because they're on a whole, potential revenge or reveal that. They got the new media that maybe used to be David Noir. There's a lot to this. Check out the one-shots on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube to know what we're talking about in detail. But yeah, it's totally like that. Your mentor gets killed. That's not to say that, in the near future, another mentor comes into play or a different relationship, just like if you lose a friend or a lover or things happen. Even a player gets killed, like we were talking about before, roll a new character. Let's keep moving forward, let's keep playing. But that's the idea. And it's Cyberpunk. It should be played dangerous. It should be played, real. It should, not a lot of fudging, not a lot of cushion. There's no, magic and potions and stuff like that. Not to say that a med tech can't make certain drugs and things that act, as the equivalent of that, but you get the point. It should be played, as real as possible and as dangerous as possible, and it should be on a street level. It should be very personal. So that being said, yeah, things can change, and they should change, Yeah, and everybody's saying thanks. It sounds like we're doing a good job covering these questions. I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the next section of this life path.
Yeah, the next section is already the last section. Who is gunning for you? You've got that in everyone, as far as I know.
Yep.
And that's number 1, combat zone gangers who want you to work for them exclusively. Yeah, okay. Who doesn't want to have a good fixer working for them exclusively? Just a question.
Yeah. Yeah, and anybody was watching my weekly ongoing I was doing for like over 8 months, Team Nameless, which just came to an end recently. Like I said, I got some new gameplay about to launch on a couple different channels and things. But anybody that was watching that weekly ongoing, Team Nameless, we kind of had that relationship with the Netrunner. There was a Netrunner on Rio, played by my buddy Daniel, and he had the fixer that was an NPC that I made up, named Kid. He was a dangerous, kind of young and upcoming. He was a little higher rank for his age than he should because he lived so dangerous and to the edge. But he was kind of wanting that exclusive relationship with the Netrunner, with Onryo, the player. And through that, they would do gigs, they would trade off, they would do favors, but there was always this level of danger, like he was still gunning for you, but it was in a positive way because he wanted you exclusively in an obsessive sort of way almost. So that's how I kind of played that into it. But go on.
Then rival fixers trying to steal your clients. Okay, if you're good in what you're doing, you always have haters, and you always have people who want to, who are just jealous and who want to have what you have. So sure, other fixers try to steal your clients.
Yeah, and what's funny is that what I was just talking about with Onryo, the Netrunner, and Kid, the fixer, gunning for him. If anybody was watching how that team ended after 8 months, we did a rap session where we talked about the future of the team, and one of the things is Coupler, the tech, was saying he was going to multi-class into a fixer role just to go after Kid and become a rival fixer, trying to fuck him up and steal his clients and stuff. I thought that was really cool. The player was actually turning into that number 2 to the NPC fixer that was gunning for their Netrunner. I thought that would have been a really cool future to play out. Unfortunately, we didn't get to continue Team Nameless, but yeah, just wanted to mention that. But yeah, going on.
Just wanted to say, tell Coupler to look up Gato. He'll be glad to mentor him.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that too. I think when you were watching the stream or something, or at one point we talked about that, and I was like, I know a fixer. Yeah.
Exec wants you to work for them exclusively. Again, same thing as the number 1, just another kind of gang. The Exec, the corpos. Enemy of a former client who wants to clean up loose ends, like you. Yeah, okay, and that could be anyone, from a small mob, some kinds of high-class thieves who just took you to get connections and informations, had a heist and now just want to, well, clean up loose ends so that nobody can get on their trail. Corpos, gangs, everything. It could be everyone who does Black Ops or anything like that.
And I feel like that number 4, that's going to happen no matter what to every player throughout the campaign. That's just a part of life in Cyberpunk. You're going to do jobs and gigs, and you're going to do things to survive, and eventually, someone's going to want to clean up some loose ends on at least one of the gigs you do over the course of playing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that one's going to come into play with almost every character at one point.
I've got something about that in the back of my head, but people should watch the ongoing. I think I know what gig it was.
Yeah.
Old client who thinks you screwed them over. Happens in the best families, doesn't it? You go, you work with someone or for someone, you sell something for someone. And that guy thinks, well, okay, that can't be. He took more than he should have taken, or he sold it for less than he could have sold it for, and perhaps he got out something for that. Yeah. There are always people who think you screwed them over, and in Night City, to think you screwed someone over. Or someone who thinks you screwed him over means you should have eyes in the back of your head, because otherwise you'll have a bullet in your head. Rifle Fixer trying to beat you out for resources and parts, well, and that can happen anytime, anywhere.
Competition.
It's like, but that's what business lives for, competition.
Yeah. And
just like also in, I think it was Team Nameless where all those crates it came down where there was from Rothin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so as someone knows there something dropped over there, was found over there, and now it's a race. Who gets it first? And if that rival fixer knows you're behind that stuff too, so what will I do to keep you away from that stuff?
Oh yeah. In capricious nature, so we have another question here. Let's grab that. How would you guys handle creating a night market if they roll for a category they didn't have a former connection with? I spontaneously named 2 guys they hadn't met yet and introduced them as old friends. Yeah, you could go that route. You could also think of a creative way to work something new in, like maybe if it's a typical hookup they have for a category of night market, but they rolled a different category and it doesn't make sense with that LIFEPATH hookup. Maybe you work that into where they hit up their buddies like, hey, I know we normally do this sort of item and stuff, but my cousin's in town, or my blah blah blah, or I've actually kind of found this new source and I've got these items now. You can work it in that way, most definitely, or just drop in a new NPC like you said you did. But it's role playing's supposed to be an open world, so think of the real world and think of how much you just how many times you meet new people. I mean, granted, not during the quarantine. It's very hard to meet new people when you're stuck at home and you only leave your house 4 times in an entire year. But when life is normal and you're going out to do things and whatever, you meet new people. When you hang out with other friends, you meet their friends, or things change, like we said earlier. So I would say most definitely you can go any one of routes with that. Make up a new character, change an existing character's hookups or motivations. Maybe it's someone that an existing character life path knows and they bring in that as a new person, so there's at least somewhat of a connection to bring it in, so it has some reason to it. I know what you mean. You don't want to just spontaneously make something up and then it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it kind of takes away that immersive feeling for the player. So yeah, give it a little bit of reason, have it make sense.
Also, if you're a low-level fixer, like level 5 fixer, it was the first level where you can make it, or where you can set up a night market. You might think of teaming up with other fixers.
Yeah.
And those other fixers might know people.
Exactly. Yeah, creative thinking, as a GM, just like I said, come up with a way to make it work. and then give it reasons that make sense to the world that you're playing in. You know what I mean? And that way it makes sense. Because that's the most important part when it comes to that immersive stuff is, whatever twist, plots, curveballs, whatever you have to come up with to maintain the game and pacing and, all that good stuff. However you do it, just make sure, it makes fair sense. That way the players aren't, hit with something they're going, wait, oh, well, why the fuck did that happen? Okay, I guess we're doing this now. And it takes away from being immersive. But if it makes sense, the players will feel that reaction as something based on what they did or something in the world. And then it's like, oh shit, okay, now we got to deal with this. They're not even thinking that, oh, why? They're just thinking, oh shit, here's something we have to deal with now. So have it make sense, and that way it'll feel real, And Capricious says, question for Gato. Would you purposely hunt down other fixers to take their connections and businesses? Would you find it more important to make long-term connections or short-term gains? Ooh, that's a great question, and I know my answer on that. What would Gato do as a fixer here? How would you answer?
Both.
Both. That was going to be my answer.
Both, actually. I think Rob. I think Rob already found out that Gato is rather ruthless if it's about him rising up or someone threatening or hurting him, his friends, his family. So Gato wants to rise up. I think in one of the first sessions when you asked us about what we were dreaming about, I told you, well, Gato was dreaming about his big dream, becoming one of the fixers in Night City. Not one of many, but the fixers.
Hell yeah.
One of the top two or three guys. So to do that, to achieve that, he'll definitely. He's intelligent. He's got an intelligence like 6 or 7. So he knows he can't do this all by himself. That's why he is going to try to get connected, long-term connections, and make that work. As soon as he notices that doesn't really work, which happened, for example, with Ling Po, who's dead, he just doesn't know it yet. If he notices it doesn't work, he tries to get as much out of the connection as he can, and then he wouldn't be above just killing someone. Like, for example, if he gets hooked up with Kid, just a basic example, and they don't get on one page. Okay, Gato's life would be dangerous because Kid is someone who doesn't like to leave loose ends. Already found out about that, but also Kid's life would be dangerous because Gato wouldn't hesitate. He wouldn't wait for too long. He'd be smiling. He'd be telling him goodbye, and then within the next few days or couple of weeks, he would try to kill that guy. He would not actually let someone else do it, except perhaps someone he really trusts. And there are actually 2 people right now whom he trusts a bit. And yeah, and Gato has dangerous friends. That's just it. I've got a badass ninja netrunner who'd make sure I get in there without being seen or without being threatened by the security systems. Who'd even use the security systems to help me. And I've got a badass solo who looks like a college girl or like a high school girl, and who beats up everybody.
Has like a body of 10
and enjoys it. And that's just the point.
That's the solo played by a pawnsmith, so you can imagine how dangerous she plays it. She's a little badass.
She is.
Yeah.
Actually, the character I did for Steve's private game, I think Tarabella would be so proud of me
Nice.
because of the min-maxing I did there.
Nice.
Or part of the min-maxing I did there. No, but yeah, Gato, as he is ruthless, I think you've got what's your
What?
what's your goal? What's your life goal?
Yeah, I think
I wrote something like, or I had something like, get power and control. Well, I think that says enough.
exactly.
As long as it works out, everything is okay, and he will even protect people. As soon as it doesn't work out anymore, they're a liability, so you'll have to get rid of them.
Yeah, I feel like, Gato is tactful, but he's he definitely has his motivations to try to be a top crime boss. He's not just trying to be like, oh, I want to run the best night markets or make the best solid connections. He's like, yeah, you want solid connections, but it feels like you're willing to, like you said, if something's not working, drop it, cut loose ends, move here, move there, like whatever it takes to try to get to the fucking top as a crime boss, whether you crack a few eggs along the way or however you want to word it. But I think to answer Zach, capricious nature, I have the same exact answer, which both. I think it's very situational. I think Cyberpunk, if you're going to play it smart, it's going to be situation. Each situation you're going to treat different based on what it is. And then, yeah, I see, then he said, taking down Ling Po, damn, that's ambitious. Best of luck with that one. Yeah, Ling Po's a big boy. He's got, the biggest triad, division of the triad behind him, the Wang Tang Fong or whatever, and he's a bit of a badass, and he's a bit unreachable, yeah. But that's not to say that what trickles down can't be reachable. And then, they're working with the media. Anybody watching the one shot, they're trying to, get enough evidence to maybe incriminate him or break some hookups he has or whatever. It's a plan,
Ling Po made it personal. Just say it like that.
That too.
Ling Po made it personal, and that's why, yeah, I know he's dangerous. Gato knows he's dangerous, and he's got it in his head, in his mind. But it only depends on how he works his way towards something. Mm. If you want someone killed, there's always a way. There's no 100% security, and the only thing that can stop you from killing that guy is you becoming impatient. And well, that's what Gato is going to do. He's going to sit and wait. Or not sit and wait, he's going to work his way there until he will get that chance.
Yeah, and Vampire says Pixie Dust. Womp womp. Yeah, Pixie Dust is the solo played by Tarabella Pondsmith. Yeah, and the dust part, because she has no problem being addicted to synth coke to get that reflex raise on top of the cyberware and things she has to bring her body to 10. Like we were saying, she's a little girl in the game, like looks wise and all that, but she's a beast, like she's a badass, It's a lot of fun. Nuada, hopefully I'm getting that name right. Oh, and to backtrack on the whole Wildu thing, his name, just to correct that, I wanted to make that in the stream, it's Will Do. So it is Will Do. I had it wrong when I was saying Wild Who earlier. I just wanted to make that clear. I forgot to mention that earlier. But Nueda72 has a question. Does Red have rules for creating custom drugs? 2020 had such rules, and that was rather profitable. Yeah, anything's possible. I mean, they do have drug making with medtechs. There's a whole invent, fabricate deal with tech. Any good GM can combine those things to probably incorporate the crunch to make sense to invent and fabricate custom drugs. But I also wouldn't doubt that as future Chromebooks and supplements and things happen, let's not forget Red is very new. Give it time. I'm sure more books are going to come. There's going to be all that stuff covered. I'm almost positive. I can't imagine that they wouldn't over time. Just want to make sure we don't miss any of these before we move on to the next section. No, there's no rules. I'm working on making a supplement for that, says Zach. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. I just answered that too. But anybody that doesn't know Capricious Nature in the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord, he's not only leading up the Scream Sheet project that we're doing, but he also is responsible for some of the great free assets at cyberpunkuncensored.com. We have all kinds of fillable sheets and just all kinds of free stuff there. And he made this whole vehicle supplement breakdown with all these new vehicles and stats and stuff to use, and I guess he's also working on a supplement for making custom drugs, hopefully out by next month. That's awesome. That's great news. Yeah, I think we covered the questions. We can move on to the next section unless there was anything you wanted to interject or that we didn't cover. I think we can get into archetypes here. And again, if anybody has questions about LifePath or things that we already covered, you can drop it in the chat. We have no problem bouncing around subjects, but let's just keep this moving forward. Wildew did have a question, not specific to fixers, but here it goes. How do you deal with a big group of players, 5, that contain both an exec and a fixer? It's an ongoing campaign, and I'm running out of reasons for everyone to be running together. Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways you can do that. I mean, obviously you can keep it an open thing where maybe they're doing gigs that they work together. But one thing I like to do is, if you have an exec, it can get a little bit sticky, because obviously when you have an exec, they're supposed to work for a corp. They get, as part of their rollability, they get the free condo, and they get the assistant, they get this, that, whatever. I think you can play it a different way too, especially if you have a fixer. One, you bring the fixer in, they can maybe work with the corp. That's part of the potential life path that we just covered with fixers, is that they could work for a corporation, so they could be part of the same thing with that exec. But I think it's also kind of fun to maybe give them their own thing. I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that my new weekly ongoing that I'm going to be starting up, I think next Wednesday will be our session 0. Don't quote me on that. I'm hoping that we can lock that in. If not, it's going to be the following Wednesday. But in that one, I'm taking the team and I'm making their life paths involve each other. And I'm starting them off running their own media corporation, because it's just a little neocorp. There's only 5 of them, including the assistant. But that's because they have an exec, they have a media, they have a fixer, and then they have a lawman, they have a nomad. But all of them together can run their own little media corporation, trying to take down the big corps and things. You can have it make sense. Each has their own role within that team. And I do want to add that ongoing has some pretty cool players, and it's got Tracy, Miss Magitech. It's got Simon, who's Wandering DM. That's going to be a great stream. It's got my wife, Valerie. That's going to be a really cool stream. It's got some other good friends playing too. But yeah, I would totally do that, one of 2 ways. Bring the fixer into the corp that the exec is in, or pull the exec out and make them maybe run their own little indie neocorp or something. I think that would be a lot of fun. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I think we covered that. Let's move on to, let's talk about archetypes. I wanted to get into this. I think this is probably the most fun part of these deep dives, is I love going over the life path. I love going over recommended stats and skills, which we'll do in just a moment. But I love going over the archetypes, because that's where you can really give the fixer their personality, give them some characteristics that make them really unique. It's a lot of fun. So again, let's talk about this. And anybody in chat, you have creative ideas of ways to play a fixer, different types, whatever, anything outside the box thinking, drop it in there. We'd love to talk about it. For me, and I'm going to give the mic to you in a moment. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and, what you put thoughts into when you created Gato, and then other archetypes and ideas that you might have. For me, I think it always comes down to a couple things here, where I feel like, fixers are all about networking. And that's whether they're sourcing items, information, or they're networking to get other players gigs, So that's their main thing, is in networking. So I feel like within that, it's like you're an agent or a broker of services. Are you playing that evil, good, or even comical? I talked before about players, having the ability to not just be a good guy or not just be a bad guy, but you can kind of twist it up a little bit. You can kind of play both sides if you get really creative and play Cyberpunk just as dangerous and as dark as the NPCs and the plots and the campaigns that the GM's throwing at you. You're the player. Why not be just as twisted and crazy? So I feel like, and let me maybe reword that, not as twisted and crazy as to like be violent and outrageous and put your life at risk, but I think thinking of ways to manipulate the game and NPCs and the plot and be just as creative as the plot and campaign itself. Like for instance, just at face value, maybe you're brokering services and deals and stuff, but why not double cross a person? Why not get the most out of a situation? Why not, like I said, work with the media to get the evidence to break a case and get paid for that, but then take that same information and double sell it to the opposition of that information. There's all kinds of ways that you can play this. And then I even said, there's even comical ways that you can play it. And like an example, great one. Oh, and Quincy, yeah, good night, man. I know you got to get going. We'll have the VOD on YouTube in a few days, hopefully, and you'll be able to kind of catch up where you left off. But like a comical, and one thing I thought about, and I got some movie examples of characters that can give you an idea of different fixers. But look at like Jay and Silent Bob. You know, they're pretty much fixers. You know, they're drug dealers. They're networking. They're out front. Their spot is out front of that convenience store. You know, that's where they work out of. Just like, you know, a fixer might have a booth in a bar. You know, and that's kind of a comical way, the way that they act and stuff. Why not make a fixer that's like that, that's hooking up and stuff, but busting jokes and just kind of wacky like that, you know, using weird terminology and stuff. I don't know, but there can be funny ways. But then there's serious ways. You know, you think of stuff like Pablo Escobar, even George Jung, which is the guy in Blow, played by Johnny Depp, who's actually heavily into the cannabis industry now. I've met him at cannabis events out here in LA and stuff. He's still active in the drug scene, I guess. But yeah, and then there's Zorg. Think of The Fifth Element. That guy, I wrote down his name because I could never remember the first part. Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, but he went by Zorg, obviously. Fifth Element, the dude with the plastic, greasy hair, dealing weapons to the aliens, double-crossing. That perfect example of a creepy fixer. Very kid-like, and kid by the NPC I made for my monthly ongoing.
Or like King in week 2 and 3, that guy who's got all those squatters and so on who were working for him, and who basically sells equipment and information.
Yep. No, exactly. That's another great example. And Capricious says, OMFG, Jay and Silent Bob are already a set of NPCs in my game the players haven't met yet. There you go, man. Great minds think alike. But I love that you thought of that too. You know, but you know, that's creative thinking on a fixer part. Everyone always plays it like dangerous, good or bad or whatever. But I love that you know, the comical angle, if you want, sometimes, you know. Let's see, Graphite Dragon. Hey, what's up, Graphite Dragon? I am looking at a private investigator fixer. A fixer can also be a problem solver, no matter the problem. Very true, because they're the source of information and networking. They would have connections to find people. They know their area. They know where to get what they need to solve a case. So true. And imagine multi-classing that fixer with a lawman that's a private investigator. Yeah. That could be really powerful, you know, and an interesting angle, you know, route to go down. Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction, great example. Graphite Dragon, awesome. Yeah, and if anybody else has examples from movies or even real life, you know, like I said, Pablo Escobar, you know, like there's things like that that are real life fixers. But any movie examples are great to mention because it gives people, you know, a direct example of something to think about when they think fixer. And the other thing I was going to mention, like when I said playing it, you know, evil or good or even comical, when I think of the evil or good, I always like to bring in, you know, the depth. You know, we are in deep dive. I guess I use the word depth. The diversity or options, I guess, within that good or evil. Like, are you pro-corp or anti-corp? Pro-gang, anti-gang? Because you see in the life path, you might be working exclusively for one of the, you know, a corp or a gang, and maybe you're sourcing. And like I said, maybe there's a little double cross action where you're double dipping to make the most profits as a fixer, where, you know, you're pro corp for the gig, but you're anti corp behind the scenes when you're selling that same information. So there's all kinds of great ways that you can play a fixer if you want to play it, in my mind, as dangerous as a fixer should be, you know? And again, when I say, you know, words like danger, I'm not necessarily referring to like, you know, violence or combat. It can be in the form of networking information and such. Another interest, I got two more I'll mention for me as far as a fixer and archetypes and stuff, but a location scout for filming is also considered a fixer. And I think that would be an interesting thing to play. Nice. Yeah, I don't think anyone's...
For events or something like that, for events, for parties.
Yeah, filmmaking, events, that's a great one. And I think that could be, that would be a lot of fun for a GM, because think of the traveling aspect and the dangers involved, scouting locations for different things, and the payola, and, you know, the greasing of palms to make things happen, and the networking. Like, it's a very, very fixer-like thing to do.
With nomads and so on.
Oh yeah. And then the other one I thought of, which I think would be kind of fun, and I don't want to give away too much, but I am working some of this into an upcoming weekly, like I mentioned, like with the whole Sirenscape thing and other things I'm working towards. More details coming soon. I don't mean to be so cryptic, but we are still defining the details, so I don't want to say too much and then be wrong in the near future. But But yeah, the other thing I thought of is networking for the NCPD or even district PD, or a private investigator or lawman, which kind of plays into what I think it was the Graphite Dragon was talking about with that private investigator fixer. And I have that in my notes. Great minds think alike, like I was saying. But yeah, imagine a fixer, working for the actual police department, whether it's Night City PD, District PD, or a private investigator / lawman or something. And they're just there to help solve crimes, confirm evidence, get witnesses, statements, all that sort of stuff, working hand in hand with the NCPD or a lawman or investigator. I think that's an interesting angle. And I haven't seen, a lot of those things done in the past, whether it be location scout or work an NCPD angle, being corrupt, double dipping into profits, like I was saying, maybe working with the media to help source some of the evidence, but then selling it to the opposition of that same case you're breaking, so you can make money over here as well as over there, I think there's ways that you can play that. CSPO Twitches, the Finn from Neuromancer. Exactly, yeah, that's a great one. Let's see. Sorry, joined in late. Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Hey, we're going to have the VOD on the YouTube. You'll be able to go check that out in a few days and see what you missed. PWB says, what would a fixer of execs be? What would they be? I mean, no matter what, they would still be a fixer. But as far as what they would be at the corp, well, it depends. Is a corp outsourcing the fixer to get information and source things, like if it's Rockland and then source parts to do stuff, or someone using them for Black Ops, sourcing information to use as espionage in an espionage attack or something towards another corp, maybe. It really depends. I'm a fan in recent times, the way I'm kind of planning out upcoming campaigns, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of putting them in a situation, especially like if you have an exec in the team and a media, or exec and fixer and things, have them working for the same corp or starting their own. But yeah, I think a fixer of execs would definitely be, more on the information side, unless it's sourcing raw materials and things for whatever the corporation manufactures maybe, or is trying to do. Spider from Elysium is one sending people up to the med bays. Coyotes. Oh, great point. Coyotes. Yeah, that would definitely be a fixer. They're networking the ability to get you across the border or to a place you're not really allowed to go, whatever it might be. That's a great one. Coyotes. I love that. Michael Cohen, fixer for execs. There you go.
Vampire Bite says A-Team Hannibal. Well, I think Hannibal is more like a rocker boy, but you've got Face. And Faceman, he is fixer, totally fixer.
Yeah. See, but I could say Face could kind of be a rocker boy too, because he's almost got that actor, thing, because he's the pretty boy actor guy, kind of.
Sources everything.
I feel like all of them, what, let's just say, I think all of A-Team probably is so badass and experienced. They're all multi-classing in some way.
They're all multi-classing rocker boy and something else.
Yeah. Totally.
Then for me, Hannibal would be rocker boy exec, because he is the guy who's organizing everything.
Yeah, for me, he would be, exec, fixer, solo. Probably started as a solo. They all did as in military,
All of them.
Yeah, they're all badasses.
All of them tech.
Yeah, it's so true.
Especially B.A. Baracus.
Yeah. Well, Murdoch, he was the pilot, so he's like the nomad, right? He's like the nomad multi-class because he's the pilot, and
it got wheels, you can drive it and you can fly it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great example. Man, chat's really active with these examples. This is probably my favorite for archetype chat contributions. We've had previous deep dives, and we've had a couple people suggest things aside from what me and fellow streamer might suggest during the episode. This one, everyone's coming up with some great examples. I love it. Cobb from Inception. CSPO Twitches. You've got a lot of great examples there, man. Great brainstorming, and that's for someone who jumped into our stream late. Awesome.
He's got to catch up.
Yeah. He's making up for it. That's awesome. PWB says a garage corp startup as a campaign is an excellent idea. Oh, hell yeah. Especially like, you got a nomad and stuff. It could totally be something that has to do with the garage. CSPO Twitch says I play fixers. Yeah, me too. That's probably one of my all-time favorite roles. Just because of the role-playing aspect. I love the whole networking thing and the power behind it, and trying to see how much I can manipulate what's going on with the campaign. Eric says Huggy Bear Brown, total fixer. Yeah. Who's the guy? Big Worm from Friday. He's one. You know, any drug dealer you can think of from a movie, obviously, is going to be a fixer, right? My beautiful wife Val Mulligan says, jumping in and out. I'm at work. Great information. Thank you. Hell yeah. Thanks for tuning in. I know, Val's a caregiver. My wife, she works 12-hour shifts, so she barely has time to do anything else. I love it when you got a moment to at least jump into the stream, especially when we get to our weekly gameplay when you actually have a day off. Steve Sirenscape says, plotting for tomorrow's game and listening. Every time I think of an example, I realize someone else has already beaten me to it. Yeah. Well, hey, anytime you think of something, the world is so big, it's so the population is so large. Anytime you think of a good idea, someone else out there probably already thought of it. Everything has been thought of. It's just whoever puts it out first or puts a twist on it. So just make it your own. But yeah, that's great. So that Steve, I guess that's the game you're playing in, right?
Yeah.
The one you're playing off stream. So see, he's plotting. You might not want to give him too many ideas. He'll use that shit against you.
Oh, he can totally do that. I play psychopath. I play a psychopath twin who is a solo, and well, will be fun. Will be really fun.
Nice.
Part of the bread.
Yeah, and Capricious says to Val, you're a rock star. Keep up your awesome work. Hell yeah, yeah. Props to Val being a caregiver. She's been doing that a long time now, and it's rough. 12-hour shifts, She gets a lot of overtime. PWB laughing at CSPO saying, oh, okay, so my players set up a company after their first mission, Transfer X, for all your data transport needs. Nice. Yeah, see, that's awesome. I love when a team doesn't just play to get gigs and do things, but starts their own little neo-corporate thing. And like I said, that's what I'm kind of doing with my upcoming ongoing for the Cyberpunk Uncensored brand, and then the Sirenscape one that we're working on coming out with soon. They're both going to be teams that are kind of involved with their own work dynamic or whatever. It's going to be pretty fun, and hopefully it'll lead to some interesting things. Yeah, let's keep anybody has more archetype ideas, feel free to drop them in. We'll still mention them and get into it. I love giving as many examples as we can think of. It's very useful to players and GMs, anybody that's tuning in to the live stream or watching the VOD. And anybody watching the VOD, if you think of something, put it in the comments. You're not here live to put it in the chat, but you can totally drop it in the comments. I'm very active on our YouTube channel. I'm there every day responding to comments. If you have questions, I'll also pull them into my AMA. I do a weekly Ask Me Anything, and I pull in GM tip questions, life questions, anything, and I'll cover it. So even if you're watching the VOD, don't think that you can't get involved or get your questions answered. But let's go into recommended stats and skills.
I would have had a few more archetypes.
Yeah, go for it.
Like for example, when I started making my my character for the monthly one shots, I think I already told you. I wrote down the roles that were interesting for me, and I sent them to a whole load of my friends, and asked them what should I do, and why. And that's when there was the fixer. And during that time, I was watching a lot of spy movies, and I was watching White Collars and Leverage. And that's all those movies put together. I thought, hey, that's actually something a fixer can do too. And just before that, I had my exec for Teddy Burns' campaign, and I looked through the teammates, and it was like the operator, who is kind of a fixer if you put a role to each of those. Because he's a black ops. He's just like a spy, so you can really use a fixer like a spy too. Because spying is networking, but also you need many of the other things you just do with, and that's where we get to the stats later on, with some of his main stats, or who are based on his main stats with the skills he's based on normally. And that's, I think, one thing we didn't have yet. I think most of the others we already had. But just those spying types. And we did those things like Gato stealing something to get into places, so on. That's what came out of that creation. While thinking, hey, okay, classical fixers like that, but I want him to be a bit more like that thief too, who gets into places, steals his stuff, sells it, and so on.
Yeah, he can do all the fixer stuff, but he can get it done himself. Like he's not scared to pick a pocket or a lock, or pull a weapon or do a standoff, against a few boy band wannabe guys or whatever. But yeah, I love that about Gato.
Because they had to leave it in the car.
But I like that about Gato. He's not just the networking or stuff or sourcing, but he gets his hands dirty.
Well, he's not afraid of doing that. Okay, let's go to the stats.
Yeah. And Capricious Nature says 007 solo rocker boy fixer, the ultimate triumvirate of spying. Yeah, he's. Yeah, no, I would say 007. He's. I would even throw a little tech in there maybe with the way he kind of uses his little invention things and does stuff. Obviously he gets them from the text, but he's been able to pull some MacGyver moves in some of the past films and things as well. But yeah, 007. He's multi-classing almost every role probably except for exec, right? But yeah, let's get into.
He is rather high level. That's one thing. He will be a rather high level fixer, because in the role abilities, at certain levels you start moving in like secret societies, like corporates, like political areas. So you just get in there and nobody will notice that you do not belong in there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not even, they don't notice that you don't belong in there. You actually do belong in there at that point, because like, man, once you get to those levels, it's like, those cultures and how to work in that. Like you're part of it at that point. Like you're not faking it. Like how that shit works, and you are comfortable in those situations. I think that's awesome. But yeah, and again, anybody in chat, you want to backtrack on LifePath stuff, archetypes, drop it in the comment, no problem. But we're going to move forward to recommended stats and skills. Let's talk about stats first. Obviously, cool is going to come into play when you're a fixer.
Absolutely, most important stat for a fixer: coolness. Mm-hmm. Coolness with the skill of trading and your fixer ability. That's how Gato got his 19 for trading right now, while it's tackling stat.
Yeah, I know. Cool. I think.
Also, I think. Yeah.
No, go on.
You first.
You first.
No, you were still talking about coolness, right?
Well, no, I mean just generally. I was gonna say, because it plays into everything that a fixer is about within that stat. But it also plays into, like you were saying, some of the recommended skills that play into cool. And when I think of that, it's almost like reverse engineering the character. Like instead of focusing on the stat first and then skills, sometimes I'll play out like, I want this type of fixer. Like he's going to be really good at like, human perception and conversation and like those things. So, he's going to need some empathy, or he's going to need like some will to be able to, hold his down. But are you going to lean into like intellect? Because that's another thing with fixers when it comes to, deduction, conceal, reveal. If you're sourcing items, you're doing things, you're going to need some stuff like that. And I think with the fixer, when it comes to some of that espionage stuff and networking, you need to be smart. You need to be smarter than the people you're trying to haggle with or get deals or double cross. You know what I mean? So to me, it's always like cool, empathy, intelligence. And then, like I say, with every role, it's cyberpunk. So it's always a good idea to think a little bit about dex or reflex or body. One of those three, all of those, couple of them, whatever. It's always good to somewhat think about that, unless you have a really solid team where you've got some tough backup, in which case be that fixer that's a little squishy. Maybe you're not worried about some of the fighting as much as putting it all into being cool, having empathy and intellect and like all those skills associated. But like I said, it's cyberpunk, it's dangerous. I always like when, every character leans into their role-playing strengths and then has a little bit of combat, whether it's like, I'm really good at martial arts, or I'm awesome with a melee sword or blade or weapon, or I'm really good with rifles, or I'm a sharpshooter with a handgun, or, you know what I mean? Like, I think you should at least be able to defend yourself a little bit, Yeah,
that's totally what I think. I like to make my characters so that they can defend themselves. And
you have to.
if it's a netrunner, a fixer, a rocker boy, an exec, no matter what, they at least need to be able to evade and to defend themselves, whether it's close combat or what I suggest for most people, ranged combat, because you can fire a weapon at point blank. That's no problem, but you cannot punch someone who's 10 meters away.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. And I think you brought up a good point too, is like the whole evasion thing. Like, I think that's another thing to think about. Like, if you're not going to be heavily into combat, can you at least dodge when people are coming at you? Like a net runner being stuck within 6 meters of a access point. I feel like a fixer, they're in situations like that too because of the networking, where they're like kind of maybe stuck in a deal. Like they're in a room shaking hands, greasing palms, and like things go south. And if they're not good at combat, or their teammates are, they could really get fucked, you know? And that being said, don't forget, when it comes to evade, you can't even do that with ranged attacks unless your reflex is 8 or higher. And then it's going to go to your dex, which is your stat associated with your evade, with your evasion. So keep that in mind as a fixer. Like, if you are going to go that route and you want to, you should at least have an 8 reflex and then enough dex to make your evasion worth it if that's the route you're going. But like I said, with a fixer, first and foremost for me, you know, cool, empathy, and intelligence. If not all of those, at least 2 of them, you know?
Well, that's actually how I built my fixer in the beginning. Problem is, Gato is quite heavily cybered up. Empathy is his lowest stat actually right now.
That is true. Empathy gets fucked in other ways. You could have it high, but you're right. The second you start getting cyberware, you got to get therapy to get that back to normal, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to. But also, I still have a couple of things, cyberware, that I still want to have.
Yeah.
So it's always, I'll first have. I had 1 week of a therapy with Gato already. I guess I'll first have a couple of more before I put in the next cyberware.
Yeah, I think what would be cool, like anybody that's been watching that, they're monthly one-shot ongoings, but like we're in the middle of that whole David Ling Poe thing. I feel like once we get that done over the next session or 2, we'll be able to turn it into an official monthly ongoing where we can, like I said, have cliffhangers and all kinds of cool shit. Once we get to that point, I'd love to finally give you guys a little bit of downtime, you know, enough downtime to get therapy, do some hustles, and then we regroup and start the official ongoing. So we'll get there eventually. We'll get Gato the options that he needs to progress the character. And that just reminded me of one thing too. Earlier you mentioned about the dream thing, and I think someone in chat put a question mark. Maybe it was to somebody else, or they were confused about that, and I forgot to reiterate. For some reason that just popped in my head. But yeah, when I do gameplay, one of the things I like to do as a GM when I start a session, if it ended where the team maybe went to sleep the night before, like, you know, your session ended, they all went to bed, the next session starts with them waking up to start the day. Sometimes I like to start it with like, hey, what did Gato dream about last night? You know, and let the characters describe what they dreamt about, while they were sleeping. I think that's fun. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, what did you eat for breakfast? You know, like just random things. Hey, what's your character's favorite drink, or what's their favorite movie, or who's their hero in real life, entertainers? I don't know. There's all kinds of interesting questions as a GM. I like to just kind of throw in maybe one in a session to give a little insight to the character that has nothing to do with gameplay. Just totally fluff, just some of that, not crunch, but some of the flavor, you know what I mean? And I do see Graphite Dragon, someone else kind of did the point thing. All players get a +2 to all rolls. That's funny. We have that there 500 channel points. You can add a +2 to all player rolls. That's for when we do our live stream gameplay. However, I'll take that. We both get a +2 to our conversations for the rest of this stream.
Okay. I think Steve did that before too, so we got a +4.
Yeah, we got a +4 right now. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, when it comes to like recommended skills, and Gato does this. I love that you did this with Gato. Is not just leaning into like the cool, the empathy, the will, the conversation, the networking, grease and palm style skills, the haggling style things. The very fixer typical skills. But when it comes to the combat stuff, regardless of what type of combat you want to be good at, if you're going to have a little bit of that to survive in Cyberpunk. I think the other thing that is like a staple for fixers, and almost with all characters for me, because if one doesn't have it in a team, it could fuck up the whole team, and that's stealth. Being stealthy, I feel like it's important for a fixer, because they're trying to overhear shit, they're networking, they're doing deals, maybe they're, like you said, pickpocketing, picking a lock, but it's kind of important for the whole team, because if you're trying to be stealthy and even just one person in the team fucks up, like, you're ruined.
Yeah, that's just it, and stealth is always important, especially in places like Night City, where you never know who is around the next corner.
Yeah.
Might be a whole group of Maelstrom who just want to beat up everybody, so...
Yeah, I had a Rob Mulligan, my beautiful wife, puts yes with the laughing face. I think I know what she's referring to. I thought of the same thing. In Team Nameless, they were breaking into Source and Neocorp. They were a whole Rockland, Ziggurat conspiracy thing from the Arrow Zeps colliding and going down and the lost merchandise. A whole great thing. Watch my Team Nameless, Season 3. It's on the YouTube. Really cool story. But there was a moment where they were going down an alley and going in. They were trying to be stealthy. Or maybe they were coming out. I think they were coming out or going, I can't remember. But they're trying to be stealthy. All of them were stealthy except for the tech. Did a horrible roll. I was like, yeah, as you're going through, everyone's being stealthy. The tech steps on a broken bottle, brings attention. Then all of a sudden people turn their heads. It's like, there's an example. Everyone in the team is stealthy as hell, but one person messes it up for the whole team, It can totally happen. So I always recommend stealth as a skill. Just like I feel like perception. Like there's certain things, that you're not given as a player. Like there's those certain skills. Yeah, exactly. But there's a certain, everyone gets a 2 in, like first aid and brawling and all that. I feel like 2
in perception.
Exactly, and I feel like it plays into that. It's like that sort of thing where like everyone can walk on their tippy toes. Everyone can kind of like really check something out or have at least that level of perception to give it a little more attention. So it kind of comes into that. But I feel like, Cyberpunk, everybody needs a little bit of that. And fixers maybe even a little bit more because of the type of work they do. But that's what I love about Gato, is that you made him, a fixer, but he can still, like I said, get his hands dirty. He'll pick a pocket, he'll pick a lock, he'll get in and get it done himself too. It's not just the typical fixer.
And he has a high persuasion, so if he gets caught, he can most of the time talk his way out.
Yep, and that's important for a fixer too, is the gift of gab. You're working deals and haggling and networking info. Like you gotta. That's another great skill that I think is important to a fixer. Graphite Dragon, man. See you later. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you on the Discord and online. Don't forget, check out the VOD on YouTube so you can catch anything you missed. He says he's got a jet. Great stream. Thanks, gentlemen. Awesome chat. Thanks, everyone. He said, yep. CSPO says, take care to the Graphite Dragon. Yeah, I really appreciate you tuning into the live streams and contributing ideas and stuff. It's really cool. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other recommended stats and skills. I think I covered everything I wanted to. And like I said, deduction. Like some of those intellect skills I think are overlooked with a fixer. Intellect skills, they can always be kind of pulled into any character depending on how you want to play them. But I do, like I said, with fixer, I do like conceal, reveal, and deduction. I think that's kind of important for a fixer. I think we covered all of it. If there's any other questions, anybody in the live chat or watching, any other questions about a fixer or in general, fixer based or deep dive style, get it in now. We'll answer it before I kill the transmission. Vampire, I see you using my favorite emoji that I made. I made that emote, the Militech gun. I love seeing people use that around. It's my favorite one. Skills wise, I find it important to have a skill related to what you're fixing. Oh, most definitely. When it comes to a tech. Yeah, and even if you want to change that and say to what you're fixing as a fixer, not like you're fixing something textile, but you're fixing a situation or a network or whatever, you're brokering some deal. It's important to have the skill related to that specifically. As a GM, you might pull that in. If it involves weapons or tech, things that you're networking, or if it's information, it's going to probably involve some intellect checks and stuff.
Accounting, if you're managing a rocker boy.
Oh yeah. That kind of fixing, not tech fixing. Exactly. I got what you were saying. I was just kind of reading it literal at first, but I got it. Is there an appraise skill? No, there's something similar, I thought, if there's not appraise. Let me double check that. But I think that, but a lot of these also, if there's not that particular, which I don't think, unless my mind's going to a different RPG, but a lot of these are dynamic now. Like for instance, there's no in Red, there's no seduction. You're just using persuasion, so that can be used in multiple ways. And I think it can go that way with maybe appraisal. Maybe it's a general intellect check or whatever tech skill or within skill of the item you're appraising. Maybe the fixer can do that, or it can be incorporated within haggle. Yeah, there used to be, I think in 2020 exactly. I haven't read my copy of Red yet. Another great deep dive, Val says. Hell yeah, I thought it went awesome. And again, last call for any questions for me or your resident fixer Gato. I like giving miscellaneous synergy bonus to operator checks for having the right related skill to what you're dealing in. I like that. That's a great idea. It's almost like a complementary skill, like you would do with another team member maybe. That's doing something to they successfully do that check in a way that gives you a +1 to the check you're doing. I think that's a great way to kind of have it all in-house, to the fixer. Like if they've got those particular skills, within whatever they're dealing with, it can give them a bonus. Hell yeah, why not? What's the CSPO? What's the scariest thing for a fixer to face or deal with? I would probably say, anything. It is Cyberpunk. Like we said, anybody gunning for you or looking for revenge or something that you did.
I think that's another fixer.
I was going to say another fixer is maybe the most dangerous because it involves that competition cutthroat. It's not necessarily cleaning up loose ends or something as black and white. And that can always lead to being more dangerous. And when there's competition, someone's competing with you for the same scene or skill set or items or whatever, it can get really cutthroat. I've dealt with that a lot me being in the music industry and a touring musician, a filmmaker, even being a streamer. Being a published comic book writer. I wish I had one of them handy to show you. Got a couple of those. I've got a published book. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's going to be competition. There's going to be people will be fucked up, man. They'll lose their morals if they feel you're getting an edge on them somehow.
You've got that everywhere, actually.
Oh yeah,
it's like everyday work and so on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's in real life. You can imagine even more in Cyberpunk Red, where you're coming off of that fourth corporate war, the city's reestablishing, everyone's like trying to elbow some fucking room in the city just to make a place for themselves to survive and then hopefully eventually thrive. So it's going to be cutthroat. It's going to be rough. But yeah, I would definitely say I agree with Gato, another fixer.
Capricious nature is the question is also quite interesting. How important is it for the fixer to serve themselves over serving the group or even the client? Should they be greedy? I think that actually totally depends on how you want to play your fixer. You can play a fixer who tries to do everything for the community, for his friends, for his family, for his group, who's just a very good person. But on the other hand, you can play someone who is just centered on his own profits, on his own power. So in the latter case, he will be greedy. He must be greedy. But in the earlier one, he wouldn't be greedy at all, or he would be greedy, but not for his sake, but for the sake of the others.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add in there, another kind of interesting way you can play that as a GM. One thing I've done in past streams. Is I'll do a private message. Like we use Roll20 to stream, right? Or you can do it in Discord. We stream our videos through there. But I've sent a private message in gameplay, in the chat, that went to a specific player with, hey, the corp just paid you. You just got your 1,800. You just got this. And I won't tell the rest of the team. So they get done with the gig. They knew that their corp, just my example in a past game, I was running Team Spicy, and I've done it in team name. I've done it in different teams in games, but there was an exec and they were doing a job. The corporation was sending them on, but when they got done, the exec's agent beeped. He saw the money come in. I didn't say what it was. I left it to the exec to see how's he playing his exec. Is he going to tell the other teams like, hey, we made this much? Or is he going to say, hey, I've got this much for you, this much for you, this much for you, this much for me? No one needs to know that, And I did it privately to see how he was going to play that. And he was fair. He told the team exactly what he got paid. He divvied it up evenly. But I have had other teams almost screw each other. I've never had a team actually screw each other over or not tell them, but I've had them come close where they joked about like, oh, we only made this, and then like a second later they laugh, oh no, actually it was this, and then they come clean and they play it right. But that would be interesting. You know, why not? Why not use what you're good at to get a little bit of an angle? You know, it's in the real world, people do that all the time. You pay for services, like even if someone's working in your own corporation or team or band or whatever you do, or crew on filmmaking or out excavating or whatever you do, you know, people are going to have different skill sets and they're going to capitalize on that shit. People don't get paid the same exact from the same job, you know? People make different pay rates and stuff, so why not play it just like that? And that can cause some controversy in the game too, which could be fun to play out if the players want to play that like that. Let's see. He says, yeah, my fixer is very honest. I love my girlfriend, Sophie, but she's way too forthcoming and kind to the group members. Yeah, but see, that most teams are like that, you know? Think about when you're playing Cyberpunk. It's like Cyberpunk Red is dangerous, the city's cutthroat, everybody is, you know, kind of fucked up or corrupt for the most part, or at least struggling. Not that everyone's evil, obviously, but the fact is like if you have a team, you should probably be nice to them. They're the few people you can trust and you make money with. Why not be nice to them and stuff? But like I said, the real world isn't always necessarily like that, so you can also play it a different way or have aspects of it that are played in that way, you know?
Also, in a city like Night City, you're always closest to yourself and to the people you're working with.
Yeah.
Sure, you're nice to your people, but that doesn't mean you have to be nice to others.
Exactly.
And if I'd be mean, I'd tell him now to tell his girlfriend to write me, and I'll have a talk with her, and after that she won't be that nice anymore. I did that with that girl who's going to play with Steven and me. I said, well, I don't know whether I can play that way. I gave her some bad ideas how she can play a psychopath twin sister.
That's funny.
And she plays someone who is really, really intelligent with a very, very low body stat. So I told her, well, you'll just be our mastermind. Wow, but
Oh yeah.
I can fight, but I can't get into fights that much. You've got a brother for doing that.
Exactly.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, maybe you're not good with a gun or a blade, but your mouth is your weapon. Your mind is your weapon. You know, you can still manipulate the game in the same way a bullet or a blade can. You know. Yeah, and Capricious Nature, Zach, follow up to that being nice or an honest fixer. He says, and even way too nice to the NPCs. But as you guys say, it's her call. Just want more cutthroat. And then he smiles like a laugh. Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. You know, everyone plays their character the way they want. There's some fun to that though, being kind of the shining light, nice person, the only nice person in the city. That's like truly nice all the way through. Not even mean to some and nice to some, but like nice to everybody, every NPC. Like they're just always trying to be positive. They give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Who knows? You know, that to me sounds like it could be interesting. It's very different. Yeah.
Also, that's just the fun of playing different roles. Like, there are people who don't feel comfortable with playing someone bad.
That's true.
Or playing an evil person. I, on the other hand, when I started playing, everybody was playing the shiny hero in shining armor, and who was always good, lawful good, always. And after a while, it was no fun anymore. So people started playing evil characters. and after another while, I felt that this wasn't fun anymore either. So I started changing into that gray zone, into that shadowy zone, where you didn't really know, is he good, is he evil? Mm-hmm. And I actually play most of my characters like that. And I actually did once I really started playing a lawful good paladin, and I took every cliche. And the other players, they were so fed up after a couple of sessions.
Nice. Yeah,
so I started to do that back a bit because everybody has to have fun. But it's always not everybody likes to play all different kinds of characters. So there are many people who put their morality into the game, and that's okay, because everybody should have fun. But on the other hand, if you tell yourself, well, this is a game, and here I'm a total different person. It doesn't really matter to anyone. I can be really evil now. Hey, this is your chance. Do that.
Exactly. No, and I think it like I said, I think it makes the game have depth to it. It makes it, more real. It makes it more immersive because it's not so black and white and, I don't know how else to define it, but like fantasy or whatever, where like you're not just locked into your alignment. It's very flexible, and it's almost like a moving what's the word? A moving dial, or that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like you gauge it based, it's situational, and Cyberpunk can, there's maybe times where it's beneficial to be super nice, but other times when like, shit, I gotta lie to this guy to make this right over here. And like, even though, this is the good thing to do, I've got to do something bad over here to make sure the good thing can happen. Like a Robin Hood sort of thing almost, and that can totally play. And and PWB says complex characters is the only way to go. Exactly, that's my point. Exactly. And even if it's complex team dynamics, like maybe the character itself is that, lawful good or whatever, that super nice person and a thing, but the dynamic is that they're going to annoy their own teammates or run into conflict in the city because not everyone's like that, and it can make the team dynamic just as complex as a complex character by being a little diverse within those team dynamics with the character itself. But that's a great point, and I think that is probably the only way to go. I love when characters have little quirks, to them. They're either like really young, really old, really big, really small, really this, really. They have like something. I was talking to Brandon from Realmsmith. He's going to be playing in my weekly ongoing that we're going to be doing with Sirenscape, starting up in a couple weeks. And we were talking about past characters we've ran with D&D and stuff. Like my wife was a good cleric and stuff, and it just made for sticky situations when like my rogue, who is obviously more flexible, was doing things that she didn't think were right, and it just makes for a team dynamic that's really interesting. And he was talking about, aside from role and that, when it comes to, like I said, giving him quirks or characteristics, he had a character he made that was blind. I think that's such a great idea to give them something that extreme to have to role play with in the game and make it work. Other senses are heightened, and skills and things. So like, think outside the box and give your character some complex dynamics to them and bring them to life. Make it interesting. Capricious Nature says, gentlemen, I have to get going. I do want to say bye before he dips, but Zach, thanks so much for joining. I know you have a hard time getting Twitch to stream live for you. I'm glad it worked again. And I appreciate everything you're doing for the Cyberpunk Uncensored brand. The Scream Sheet project, the free assets you contribute. It's great work, man, and thanks for helping promote. And we'll be doing some more deep dives in the near future. I've got Night City Live episode coming up next week. Like I said, some more gameplay starting up very soon. PWB says thanks to you both. Oh yeah, thanks. Vampire Robin Hood sending his merry men out to acquire stuff for distribution to the populace. Exactly. I think Robin Hood's a great example.
I like this Havala idea is of CPO Twitches. Like a fixer lending out money to others, or letting people send money to him so that he can forward it to some other people.
Oh yeah,
and that's a nice idea too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and see, there's like that modern cyberpunk version of Robin Hood where it's like stealing from the rich, giving to the poor in a way that works within the tech and stuff in the the dark dystopian future version. Great thinking. That's an awesome idea. Yeah, CSPO, man, you seem to have a lot of great ideas. You should hook up with Capricious Nature in the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord and get down with our Scream Sheet project. I bet you'd have a lot of cool, fake articles and things to contribute that other GMs would really, love to use as assets in their game. You should join us in and get down with that. I think you'd be great at it. But that being said, yeah, any last words before I kill this transmission? Anything about, anything you want to say about Cyberpunk yourself or Fixers or this stream? Just your last, any last words here, Rothin?
Well, I just love Cyberpunk. I thank you a lot for giving me the opportunity to play with you, to be part of this. And just look up all the live games and all the other stuff that's put online. I did love Team Spicy. I did love Team Nameless. I was really sad when I heard that they quit, but you told us the reasons, and you told us that they start again as a monthly ongoing, right?
Yeah, well, and that got postponed too because of some scheduling issues with two of the players. But I think Hollow might be coming back for one of the other monthlies I fit in, and then some of the other guys might come back in the near future when they're ready. But it had to at least stop for now. But I do have more coming up. Okay,
and I can't wait to play again.
Oh yeah. We gotta get back into our monthly, like I said, so we can wrap up the one-shot vibe and fully turn it into an ongoing. Then I can, throw some cool cliffhangers and shit at the end of a session that everybody loves and hates.
Also, David Link Poe will probably be let's say like that. He'll probably be present somewhere in the background for a long while still. But
I think
I'll not get him out of my head.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like the world's gonna stay the same. Everything we're just gonna make it an official ongoing. But yeah, most definitely, any of the existing lore and things happening, they're gonna carry on. And Ling Po, I would assume, he's not going anywhere. He's pretty rooted and established Chinatown and the Triad, and he's a big boy. He's gonna be around.
What I actually meant, after dealing with the Triads, we will probably not have killed Ling Po yet, but we'll work toward that.
Oh yeah. It'd be cool to see if we can get the ongoing going long enough that we can get Gato up to a level where he can be, pursuing his dreams like you've wanted. Getting Gato up to being his own crime boss, maybe a direct competition for Ling Po, or we'll see how that pans out. But I love that idea, and I too, I'm looking forward to getting back into that with you too.
Right hand being Bodak, left hand being Pixie Dust.
Oh yeah, and don't forget you got the media now. He's a little crazy.
We have the media.
The new guy, but then again,
it didn't get used to him yet.
Yeah, he's new.
But one question: who told the media Gato was wearing a helmet? Gato has never been wearing a helmet.
I don't know. Did he say that?
He constantly kept saying, "You guys, you're all wearing helmets." No, we weren't.
Oh no, I think he was because the media's kind of crazy, talking about the government or the city stealing your thoughts or doing something, and you have to wear helmets to block it. He's playing this media where he's like kind of crazy. So maybe it was something into that. He had a whole graphic about it that I didn't pull up in the last stream, but it might be coming in the next one. We'll see where he maps out his process of thinking, and I can't wait for everyone to see that. It's out there, to say the least.
Okay, I'm curious.
Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah. That being said, hey, thanks so much for joining me, man. Like I said, I'm looking forward to playing again. We'll be doing that soon, and I'll be promoting that. Anybody watching this, keep looking out for more live streams and gameplay from Cyberpunk Uncensored. Like I said, I've got a new weekly coming up that I'm going to be doing with Sirenscape on their channel. I've got a monthly I'm getting ready to start up with other streamers that are coming over to the Cyberpunk Uncensored brand. I also have the monthly ongoing where Gato, the Fixer, is with the rest of the team, and Pondsmith, Steve from Sirenscape, my buddy Jack. That's coming back in, going to be coming ongoing. So plenty of gameplay, as well as we have other GMs like GM Zeppi, who's doing a 2078 version of Red. So it's like Red rules pulled into 2077 lore and then put in a year after the video game. So it's kind of Red, some of the rules streamlined, pulled into lore and world past 2077. Really interesting. It's on our YouTube channel. Check it out. And then there's other GMs streaming as well that we put up the videos. One in particular does every week, every Sunday, 10 a.m. right here. That might be changing because of the time change, but you'll see it in the schedule. It's GM Reservoir Panda, and yeah, he's streaming every week as well. So anybody out there, you know, tune in. Lots of series, lots of deep dives, Night City Live, GM Roundtable, and interviews, crash course tutorials, and like I said, lots of gameplay. So between the Twitch and the YouTube, we got you covered. Subscribe, follow, and keep coming back. I really appreciate that. Everybody in chat, you guys were absolutely awesome. I really appreciate all of you contributing ideas, questions. It's the lifeblood of this series, and it keeps it going. And I feel like each episode is just packed full of great information, tips, and ideas for all players and GMs. And a lot of that is because of our active chat. So again, thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, make sure you go to cyberpunkuncensored.com. And I'll put all the links in the description, as well as timestamps and stuff for the VOD. CSPO Twitches says, we love you and what you've done for the Cyberpunk community. Props. Hell yeah, thanks for saying that, man. I really appreciate that. You know, it's a somewhat of a thankless job in the sense that, like, we all have passion for Cyberpunk, so we're constantly putting it out because we love it. But it's like, that's the things that fuels it, man. Like I've got supporters on the Cyberpunk Uncensored Patreon. You know, we have people that subscribe, you know, and follow and stuff like that. We have people that share the content online, or just take a moment to comment or send a message thanking us for creating cool shit. All of that stuff is fuel on the fire. So I really thank you, and that stuff keeps us going. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.